I didn't think anything of her at first. She was just my best friend's mom. I'd been over at their house 100 times, stayed for dinner, sat in their kitchen talking about random stuff. She was always nice, maybe a little quieter than most moms, but nothing that stood out. Just normal. If anything, I felt comfortable around her because she treated me like I'd always been there, like part of the house in a way. The first time she texted me, I didn't even question it. It was something simple, like asking if I knew where her son had left something or if I'd seen him that day. Normal reason, normal message. I replied, didn't think twice, and that was it. But then a few days later, she texted again. This time it wasn't about her son, just a hey, how are you? And I remember pausing for a second before answering. Not because it felt wrong, just because it felt unexpected. Still, I replied. Kept it short, casual. Didn't want to make it weird. After that, it started happening more often. Not every day, not anything intense. Just small conversations that didn't really mean anything. How was my day? What I was up to? Random little things. And honestly, at first, it didn't feel like a big deal. She was just being friendly. Maybe she was bored. Maybe she just liked talking. I didn't read into it. I didn't think I needed to. But looking back, that's how it started. Nothing obvious. Nothing you could point to and say this is where it went wrong. Just normal messages that slowly became something else without me even realizing it. First, it stayed normal. Just small talk. Nothing personal. Nothing that crossed any lines. She'd ask how school was going, what I was up to, sometimes joke about how her son never tells her anything. I'd reply, keep it light, and that was it. It felt harmless. If anything, it just felt like she was trying to be friendly. But after a while, the tone started to shift. Not all at once, just little things. She'd reply faster. Send messages back to back if I didn't answer right away. Ask follow-up questions that didn't really need asking. Like she wanted to keep the conversation going longer than it needed to. And I started noticing that she wasn't texting me just during the day anymore. Sometimes it would be late. Not super late, but late enough to feel different. The kind of time where conversations feel more personal, even if they're not saying anything directly. One night she asked me what I was doing, and I said nothing, just relaxing. She replied, must be nice to not have to think about anything. It wasn't a strange sentence on its own, but something about it felt heavier than the rest of our messages. Like there was something behind it she wasn't fully saying. I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just kept it simple. Changed the subject. Tried to bring it back to normal. But after that, I started noticing the pattern more clearly. She wasn't just texting to check in anymore. She was texting because she wanted to talk. And I didn't know why that started to feel uncomfortable. After that, I started noticing how consistent it was. It wasn't random anymore. It was every day. Not always long conversations, but always something. A message, a question, a reason to keep the connection there. And the strange part was, she never really talked about her son anymore. At the beginning, that was the reason she texted. Now it felt like he wasn't part of the conversation at all. It was just me and her. That's when it started feeling different. Not wrong yet, just off. Like the context had changed without me realizing when it happened. One evening I was texting her while also talking to my friend, her son, at the same time. And that was the moment it really hit me. The contrast. With him, everything felt normal. Oaks. Random stuff, nothing serious. With her, the conversation felt heavier, even when the words weren't, like there was always something underneath it. At one point she asked me if I was okay, just out of nowhere. I said, yeah, why? And she replied, I don't know. You just seem like someone who keeps things to himself. And I remember staring at that message longer than I should have. Because it wasn't something obvious. It wasn't something I had told her. It felt like she was trying to understand me in a way that didn't match who she was supposed to be in my life. And that's when the discomfort really started to settle in. Not because of what she said, but because of what it felt like she was trying to do. After that, I started replying a little slower. Not ignoring her, just creating some space, keeping things shorter, less personal. I thought maybe it would naturally go back to how it was before, but it didn't. If anything, she noticed immediately. The messages didn't stop, they just changed. She started asking if everything was okay, if she said something wrong, if I was busy. It wasn't aggressive, just persistent. Like she was trying to pull the conversation back to where it was before. And that made it harder, because now it felt like I was the one creating distance for no clear reason. One night, she texted me later than usual. I didn't answer right away. When I checked my phone, there were 2 more messages from her. Nothing dramatic, Just small things, like guess you're busy, and then hope everything's okay. And I remember sitting there, staring at the screen, feeling this weird pressure I couldn't really explain. Because technically, she hadn't done anything wrong. She wasn't saying anything inappropriate. But the situation itself started feeling wrong, like I was in a conversation I wasn't supposed to be having. And the more I thought about it, the more one thing kept coming back to me. This isn't just someone texting me. This is my best friend's mom. And for the first time, that thought didn't feel neutral anymore. It felt like something I shouldn't ignore. After that, I tried to keep things even more neutral. Short replies, no personal details, nothing that could turn into a longer conversation. I thought if I just stayed consistent, it would slowly fade out on its own. But it didn't. She kept finding ways to keep it going. Asking small questions, sending random thoughts, even bringing up things I had said days ago just to start a new conversation. And the more I pulled back, the more she seemed to lean in. Not aggressively, not in a way you could clearly call out, just enough to keep the connection there. One evening, she said something that stuck with me. I had given a short reply, nothing rude, just distant, and she responded, "You don't talk to me the same way anymore." I paused when I read that, because she wasn't wrong. But hearing her say it out loud made it feel more real than I wanted it to be. I didn't know what to say back to that, so I just replied with something simple, like I was just busy. And she didn't push it further, but after that, the tone shifted again. It became quieter, but heavier, like there was something unspoken sitting behind every message. And at that point, it wasn't just uncomfortable anymore. It felt like I was stuck in something I didn't agree to be part of. And the worst part was, I didn't know how to stop it without making it bigger than it already was. After that, it stopped feeling like something I could just ignore or let fade out. It was always there, even when I wasn't replying. I'd look at my phone and see her name, and before even opening the message, I'd already feel that same tension. Because I knew it wouldn't just be something simple anymore. One night, she texted me later than usual. I didn't answer for a while, hoping maybe she'd just leave it there. But then another message came in, and another. Not aggressive, just consistent. Like she didn't want the conversation to end. When I finally opened them, one of the messages stood out. She said something like, "I feel like you understand me better than anyone lately." I remember just staring at that for a few seconds. Because that crossed a line, even if she didn't say it directly. That wasn't just friendly anymore. That was something else. And the part that made it worse was, I could see how it got there. It didn't happen suddenly. It built up slowly, message by message, conversation by conversation, until it reached a point where it didn't feel normal anymore. And sitting there, reading that, I realized something I hadn't fully admitted to myself before. This wasn't just awkward. This wasn't just a bit off. This was a situation that shouldn't exist at all. And the longer I stayed in it, even passively, the harder it was going to be to get out of it without it affecting everything around me. After that, I couldn't pretend it was just a bit uncomfortable anymore. It felt like something I had to deal with, not just wait out. But the problem was, there wasn't an easy way to handle it. If I ignored her completely, it would be obvious. If I said something directly, it could turn into something way bigger than I wanted. And every option somehow led back to the same thing, my friend. Because no matter what I did, it would eventually affect him. That's what made it worse than just a weird situation. It wasn't just between me and her. One night I was with him, just hanging out like usual, and my phone buzzed. I didn't even need to check to know it was her. And for the first time, I didn't open it. I just left it there. But the whole time we were talking, it was in the back of my head. The fact that I was sitting next to him while his mom was texting me like that. It didn't sit right. At all. And that was the moment it really became clear to me. It wasn't about her being lonely. It wasn't about me trying to be nice. It was about a line that had already been crossed, even if no one had said it out loud yet. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized something else. If I kept responding, even casually, I was part of it. Not intentionally, but still part of it. And that's when I knew I couldn't just let it keep going the way it was. The next day, I finally decided I had to do something. Not a big confrontation, just create a clear boundary. Something simple enough that it wouldn't turn into a whole situation, but strong enough to stop whatever this was becoming. When she texted again, I didn't reply right away like before. I waited. Then I answered short, neutral, no Mozart, no follow-up questions. Just enough to not be rude. I thought maybe she'd pick up on it. That it would slowly fade out if I didn't give it anything to grow on. But instead, She noticed immediately. She replied faster, asked if everything was okay again, said I seemed different. And then she added something that made it harder to ignore than anything before. She said, I feel like you're pulling away from me. I remember reading that and just sitting there. Because that sentence didn't belong in this situation at all. That's something you say in a relationship. Not like this. Not here. And that was the moment it really hit me how far it had already gone. Not in actions, not in anything obvious, but in the way she saw it. Because for her, this wasn't just casual conversation anymore. And I didn't know how to respond to that without either encouraging it or completely breaking whatever this was in a way that would come back to my friend that I couldn't leave it like that anymore. Ignoring it wasn't working, and answering like everything was normal felt worse. So I finally said something. Not harsh, not confrontational, just clear. I told her that this was starting to feel a bit too personal, and that I didn't think it was right for us to be talking like this. I even mentioned her son, not directly accusing, just enough to remind her of the situation we were both in. There was a pause after that. No immediate reply like before, and for a moment, I thought maybe that was it. Maybe she understood. But then her message came through. She didn't deny anything. She didn't say I was wrong. She just said, I didn't mean for it to feel like that. I just feel comfortable talking to you. And then another message right after. I don't have anyone else to talk to like this. Reading that made it harder, not easier. Because now it wasn't just uncomfortable, it felt heavy. Like if I pulled away, I wasn't just ending a conversation, I was leaving someone alone. But at the same time, I knew staying in it wasn't right either. And that's where it got complicated. Because it stopped being about what was happening and started being about what I was willing to be part of. I didn't reply right away after that. I just sat there, reading her message again, trying to figure out what the right thing even was. Because now it wasn't just uncomfortable, it felt like a choice. And none of the options felt right. If I kept talking to her, even in a neutral way, I knew it would only keep going. It wouldn't go back to normal, because it already wasn't. But if I stopped completely, it felt like I was just cutting someone off who was clearly struggling. And that made it harder than it should have been. I kept thinking about my friend too, about how none of this involved him directly, but somehow everything about it affected him anyway. The idea of him finding out, even by accident, didn't sit right with me at all. And that's when it became clear. This wasn't just about being polite or understanding. It was about boundaries, about knowing where something should stop, even if the other person doesn't want it to. So I finally replied. I kept it simple, but clear. I told her I didn't think we should keep talking like this anymore, that it wasn't right, and that I didn't want things to get complicated. I didn't accuse her of anything, didn't make it dramatic, just ended it. And after I sent that, I just sat there for a minute, staring at the screen, knowing that whatever came next. She didn't reply right away. That was the first thing I noticed. After weeks of instant messages, long conversations, and constant replies, nothing, just silence. And for some reason, that felt heavier than anything she had said before. I put my phone down, tried not to think about it, but it stayed in the back of my mind the whole night. The next day, there was still nothing. No message, no reaction. And that's when it finally started to feel over. Not resolved, not fixed, just ended. The strange part was how normal everything else was. I saw my friend like usual. We talked, joked, nothing changed on the surface. But for me, something had shifted completely. Because I couldn't unthink it. I couldn't go back to seeing her as just his mom the same way again. There was always going to be that moment, those messages, that line that got crossed even if it never turned into something bigger. And that's what stayed with me the most. It wasn't about what actually happened. It was about how easily it could have gone further if I hadn't stopped it. Sometimes things don't need to become a full situation to already be wrong. And sometimes the hardest part isn't ending it. It's realizing how close you were to something you should have never been part of in the first place.